Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys for Thursday, April the 5th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Alex B. Smith, Dana Lane, maybe Andrew McGinnis momentarily as well, as we are down to the last few days of the regular season. We've got four left, three really. There's only one game on Sunday. That was the makeup game that was postponed earlier this season, Boston, Florida. So officially, really, we got three full slates of coverage, and then Sunday, you got that Bruin Panther makeup game, which may or may not mean anything to both teams. Be interesting to see what's going to be at stake when that game drops the puck Sunday night. But in the meantime, we've got, as usual, a big Thursday slate. A reminder that the playoffs begin next Wednesday. We're going to have a playoff preview show Tuesday, right here, regular time, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Everything playoffs. We're going to look at every series. I'm going to allow the Ice Guys to have their series price bets that they like in the first round. If there's any situation where they have a futures bet to win the East, to win the West, to win the Cup, I'll make sure we get that out there to the viewers as well. It'll be just an overall look at the playoffs from a betting perspective, previewing it. So looking forward to that. That'll be on Tuesday next week, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Let's get right to Thursday's card now. Break it all down. Let's start with Nashville, Washington, 51-52 on your rotation. We've got no line or side or total yet for this game. It's an interesting game because it's a measuring stick game, yeah, because you got a good East team versus a good West team, obviously, in this game. But at the same point in time, in terms of the regular season and what's at stake, not a whole lot. Washington's clinched the Metropolitan Division, can't go up, can't really fall. Obviously, can't fall in their own division. And Nashville has clinched the Central, so and the number one seed in the West. So you're looking at a spot here where, is this just about pride, putting your best foot forward, trying to make a little statement here, going into the playoffs? That's probably what it's all going to be about here in this game for the Predators and for the Capitals. Washington, give them credit. They beat the Blues in their last game. We talk about how this St. Louis team is desperate for points, and didn't matter for Washington. Back-to-back after clinching the division the night before. And still, in impressive fashion, Washington into St. Louis and beating the Blues. Rough couple of games for the St. Louis Blues, without a doubt, this week, as they need points and haven't picked up any in their last couple of games as they've battled with Colorado for that final spot. And it is down to Colorado and St. Louis, by the way. Anaheim clinched last night, so it's really the Blues and the Avalanche at this point in time for one spot. That's what we're looking at right now in terms of the Western Conference playoff picture. On the flip side, you've got the Washington Capitals or Nashville Predators coming off a loss to the Florida Panthers, 2-1 the other night. But they just ran into a brick wall and Roberto Luongo, unfortunately. 46 shots for Nashville in that game, and Luongo was terrific in that, which he's capable of doing. He hasn't been as sharp lately, but boy, was he ever sharp in that game against Florida. Or in that game against Nashville, rather, the other night, a 2-1 win for the Predators, or for the Panthers, rather. We'll see if the Predators can bounce back from that. Panthers going through a little bit of a late season lull. I think they just want the playoffs to get here. Panthers are just 3-5 in their last 8 games. I think they just want the regular season over with. Let's get the playoffs done. This is a team that went all the way to the Cup final. So these measly little last few regular season games, I'm worried about focus. I'm worried about intensity with Nashville in these kind of spots, these late games. I'd actually lean a little to Washington here in this game, but it's not a game I'm going to even come close to a bet on. I think it's a questionable, what are you going to get from both sides kind of game for me here tonight. So personally, it's going to be a game I leave alone. Look for other spots in the card, and there are a few others. Again, I'm being a little bit pulling back the reins personally on nights like this when we get late into the regular season. We're looking for quality, not quantity, and that's something I always stress here late in the season. So this game will be a pass for me, but interesting to see who does a better job putting their best foot forward here tonight, considering both teams have clinched everything already. We've got Carolina, Philadelphia. Next one up, 53-54 on the rotation. We've got Philly laying a big number here, -185 at home. The total 6 shaded to the under here in this hockey game tonight. Look, with Philadelphia, I'm not laying this price with them. We talk about it. Must win doesn't equal will win. We saw that on Tuesday night. 5-4 loss for the Flyers against the New York Islanders. A very, very surprising, disappointing result if you're the Flyers. You could have punched your playoff ticket, certainly taken a huge step toward doing that had you been able to get the job done, but you didn't the other night against the Islanders. Didn't play great defensively. Again, another so-so performance in net from Peter Mrazek. So Philadelphia, a team that I like this team a lot, but I don't like them in this price range. That's for sure. Carolina, on the other hand, gave Florida all kinds of grief, really, the other night. Gave Florida a tough game, but fell short 3-2 to the Florida Panthers the other night. It's actually a decent game from Scott Darling. As shocked as I am, shocked that I am to say that, he was actually decent in that game against the Florida Panthers. Not terrible. Kept his team in it, but Carolina still falls short here in this one. Tough game here for me. I mean, not really interested in Carolina as a dog here, to be honest. Philadelphia, though, I'm not laying this price because again, Philly needs the 2 points really to rest assured themselves of a playoff spot, but doesn't mean you want to go out there and lay these kind of numbers with these teams that feel the pressure of needing to win. Look at St. Louis last night. What did they go down as? Minus 240 favorite last night against Chicago, losing 4-3. So be careful. Be very, very careful in these spots. The total 6, not really much of an opinion there either way. Dana Lane has a little opinion of some kind here on this game. It's his first game on this card to talk about. Carolina, Philadelphia. Dana, what do you like here?
Well, I mean, listen, the Carolina Hurricanes are 8-15 in their last 23 games, and one of the main reasons for that is they're just horrific defensively. They've allowed the third most goals in that time frame, which equates to over 3.5 goals. Which is just it's not something I want to get involved with, and from a side perspective, from a total perspective, and I mean, that certainly provides me with an opportunity. I think Jacob Slavin is by far their best defenseman. They have him with Dahlbeck, who's not exactly very physical, despite his size. I think Noah Hannafin is pretty good. He's certainly above average. But Trevor Van Riemsdyk, his defensive partner, lacks the physical capability the same way that Dahlbeck does. So really, what you have is it creates a quick pace, and not a very physical brand of hockey, and so that creates a lot of offensive opportunities. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in goal tonight because Brian Elliott is, I'm looking now, is listed as probable for the Flyers, and of course he is coming back from a core muscle surgery. So when you're talking about core muscle surgery and a goaltender, I mean it's kind of up in the air what you're going to get his first game back. And if it's not him, then Peter Mrazek is going to get the start, and his goals against average we know is over 3. So I like the over in this, and this series is certainly has produced a lot of overs. In fact, 6 of the last 8 meetings have gone over the total. So that's the way I'm looking tonight.
Yeah, I don't argue with that. Carolina, Philadelphia over 6. Philadelphia is a tough team to bet under these days. It really is. 8 of their last 10 games have gone over the total, including that Islander game the other night. Islanders are going over the total with everybody in every rink. But Philadelphia is certainly not helping themselves defensively right now either. Giving up 8 goals their last 2 games combined. In fact, Philadelphia has given up 3 goals or more in all but one of their last 8 games. 7 of their last 8, they've given up 3 or more. So again, that's always been the issue with Philly. They've got a good power play. They got guys that can put a puck in the net for you, but defensively and goaltending, it's the thing that's been a little bit of a weak point for them, particularly of late. So Dana liking the over there, 6. Carolina, Philadelphia. Yeah, that's probably the only way I'd go from a totals perspective in this game as well. We've got Toronto, New Jersey, 55-56 on the rotation here. We've got Jersey minus 125 to minus 130. Home favorites here. The total 6. This one's slightly shaded to the over, minus 115 to minus 120. It's hard for me to bet Toronto under the total right now. It really is. Other than one game against Winnipeg, they've been an over machine lately. 5-2 the other night. Another over cashes with their game against Buffalo the other night. And the Leafs are fantastic. I mean, in terms of their offense, they've got it going right now. They got Marner with Kadri, which for weeks has worked great. This Nylander, Matthews, Hyman top line unit's been absolutely fantastic. Had a huge night in their last game as well. Matthews starting to play even better and better and better since he's come back from that injury. He had a couple slow games at the beginning, but boy, he's coming on for Toronto, no question about that. New Jersey at 95 points. It's really simple. I think all they pretty much need at this point in time is even, I think, just 1 point. I think even a overtime or a shootout, getting this game into extra time will get New Jersey a playoff spot. Certainly a win will. But New Jersey looking to get the job done tonight. It's just a question of when, not if. It's gonna, there's only one way New Jersey misses the playoffs. It's an epic collapse. It's one that I don't see happening. And I've talked about it. I said it Tuesday. Some of these things we talk about these same teams over and over again. You start to sound like a broken record. But I know when it comes to New Jersey, I've said for earlier in the season, Taylor Hall was the only guy they could count on for offense. That's not the case anymore. You've got other guys stepping up that have provided secondary offense for this Devils team as well, and it's been a big catalyst into them scoring goals. New Jersey's been a scoring machine lately. They have been terrific offensively. We'll see if that can continue tonight. Interesting goaltending note for Toronto. They gave Frederik Andersen some rest the last few games. He did not start either of the last two games for Toronto against Winnipeg and Buffalo. Curtis McElhinney was in net. They wanted to give him some rest before the playoffs. Anderson will start this game and the finale against Montreal. He's going to finish these last two games. That way, there's going to be a little break between the end of the regular season and playoffs, so get a little more rest with that. And so Freddie Anderson, in terms of his workload, people are a little concerned about that. He got rested this week. He's going to start these last two games, have a little more rest going into the playoffs, and then he should be fine. So if he struggles, it ain't going to be because he's tired. I mean, Mike Babcock and the Leafs have worked overtime to make sure he is well rested and energized going into the playoffs. So you'll get Anderson in net for Toronto tonight. You'll get Keith Kincaid for New Jersey. He's run with this starting job in net for the Devils. He's completely taken it away from Corey Schneider. Why not? I think Schneider's lost 11 straight starts. At this point, it's a no-brainer to keep riding Keith Kincaid. So I'd expect Anderson and Kincaid to be your goalies. I'm reluctant here again to bet an under, to be honest with you. I really am. You got two offenses in good form. I think New Jersey's going to be aggressive, trying to clinch this spot tonight. So over 6 would be the way I'd go. Dana Lane, this is another game on your card, Leafs Devils.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, this is a huge game for New Jersey. They can clinch a playoff spot. They can move 3 points ahead of Philadelphia for the first wild card spot. Toronto has tied their franchise record for the most points in team history, and really the reason for that has been they've been incredible on the power play. And I've said it 1,000 times, when we're looking at totals, I need teams that are good on the power play. I want to get those extra 1 or 2 goals. That's going to push the total goals over the number. And certainly with 20, they've scored 20 times in their last 21 games, so that certainly qualifies. And I've said the same thing about Pittsburgh forever as well. When you have the ability to roll out a guy like James Van Riemsdyk, who is a 36 goal guy right now, may hit 40. When you have the ability to put him on your third line and feel good about it, I mean, you really have a team that is in the elite category offensively. I don't always love all the line combinations, but it's working for them right now. They have 9 players that have 40 or more points. They have 2 defensemen that have at least 50 or more points, which is almost unheard of. And I've said, from a Devils perspective, I've said most of the year that I didn't think that very deep, probably, past the Heischer and Holland. But, as of late, they're starting to get some production from Zajac. And I just, to me, there's no other option and then to go over in this. And I have a tendency, as the season gets deep, and especially this time of year, to go over in a lot of these games, because desperation equals a lot of goals. And then of course, at the end of the game, you have the potential of not only the empty netter, but 2 empty netters as well. I think if New Jersey and Toronto stay to form, I mean, this game flies over the total.
All right, Toronto, New Jersey over the total of 6. Of course, both of these teams played 5-2 games in their most recent games. Jersey beat the Rangers. Toronto beat Buffalo. If that stays true to form, you got a winner here going over this total, sitting at 6. We've got Rangers, Islanders playing for exercise tonight, 57-58. Islanders minus 140 here in this game. The total 6.5, and it's shaded to the over, minus 125 to minus 130. And boy, you're talking about a total of 6.5. It's heavily juiced to the over, nearly touching 7 if it goes any higher and any more money comes in. And I still want no part of this under. Not with the New York Islanders right now. I mean, it's just we see it time and time again. Another dismal, lousy defensive game against Philadelphia the other night. 4 more goals allowed. They scored enough to win that game 5-4. That's the good news, but still giving up goals, still giving up shots, lousy penalty kill, bad defense, suspect goaltending, the whole 9 yards. It's what it's been all season long, really, for the New York Islanders. Continues to be down the stretch. That's their issue. New York Rangers, we talked about, A lot of their games have been sailing over the total as well. This is a Rangers team that's got a lot of new faces on that blue line. A lot of young call-ups coming up from the AHL. I mean, you look at this Rangers blue line. I've said it before. Neil Pionk and Ryan Spruill and John Gilmore and Rob O'Gara. You've got all these guys that are just youngsters just cutting their teeth in the NHL. It leads to defensive miscues, mistakes, turnovers, bad play, hanging out your goalies, whether it's Pavlik or Lundqvist to dry. And that's been the issue lately for the New York Rangers. Just a very young group back there, and you're prone to mistakes. And you got the Islanders who play no defense. The Rangers who have a very young defense that have struggled. Put the two together, and you understand why this total's 6.5, and you understand why I'm still having trouble trying to come up with a reason to bet this thing under. I really do. I mean, it's one of those situations where it's a very, very tricky. Islanders have cashed 4 straight overs. Power play has scored a goal in every one of those games. The penalty kill's given up a goal in every one of those games. So you got a clicking power play and a penalty kill that's given up goals. You know, on the flip side, I know the Rangers' power play has been blank 3 straight games, but their penalty kill gave up 3 power play goals to the New Jersey Devils the other night. So problematic area that this Islanders team, their power play could feast on this Rangers team. Penalty kill wise, the Islanders have been terrible. I know the Rangers have gone 3 straight without a power play goal, but the Islanders are the tonic that could fix that tonight. So yeah, it's not optimal in terms of a value of play, but over 6.5, that's the way I'm going here in this one. Rangers taking on the Islanders. Dana Lane, this is also on his card as well. Rangers taking on the Islanders. I think it's just him on this one other than me. Yes, it is. Dana, what do you like here in this battle for exercise, as I like to say, Rangers and Islanders?
Yeah, well, it's well documented how bad the Islanders are defensively, but if you flip that on over to the offensive side, I mean, they've been absolutely fantastic. Their top 3 lines has 71 points in 90 combined games, and even the Brock Nelson third line has given you 12 points in the last 30 combined games. Barzal is the first rookie to have 80 points since Malkin in 2006. And against the Rangers, we know that Barzal's been absolutely sensational. He's got 3 goals and 6 assists in the series against the Rangers. This also could be the factor that maybe a lot of people aren't looking at. This could be John Tavares' last home game. I don't know how that's all going to play out, but I can tell you, if I'm John Tavares, I have to be looking at my options. I know he loves to play in New York, but, you know, I mean, are you going to win a cup there anytime soon? I don't think so. And I think he's to the point in his career where he's got to think about his legacy and start thinking about rings. And I just don't think he's going to do it there in New York. And they've given him plenty of time, or he's given them plenty of time to show exactly what their hand is and what their plan is. And all they've done is had 1 playoff victory against the Florida Panthers. So it's going to be interesting to me, but what's going to happen with that. But as far as tonight is concerned, I expect him to put on a show. The Islanders, of course, again, we talk about power plays. Over the last 10 games, they've been as good as anybody in the league, scoring 14 times. The Rangers have lost 7 of 9, but it's the Islanders, so hopefully we're going to get an inspired effort. And the bookmakers are really asking you to put a lot of, or pay some juice getting the over on this, even at 6.5, which I'm more than willing to do. There's no way I'm getting the under on this.
6.5, I know. And then again, 3-3. Can you see it? I mean, that's all you need. 3-3. Can you get both teams to 3 goals? Both teams have allowed 3 goals regularly as of late, pretty all season really. If you're the New York Islanders, so that's all you need to cash it over. Get me to 3-3, and I've got a winner. And I think we can get that here in this game. I mean, this Islanders team. Look at these games. Look at these last 7 games for the New York Islanders. 7, 3, 3, 3, 5, 4, 4 goals allowed. There you go. They're giving up 3 every game recently. And if that Rangers get to that and the Islanders can get to that and they've scored, 3 or more in 4 straight, we got an over here. So both of Dana and I involved there. Rangers Islanders over the total. Pittsburgh Columbus 59-60. Columbus minus 130, total 5.5. Slightly shaded to the over, about minus 110 to minus 120 in that range, depending on where you look. This is really a big game in terms of home ice advantage in the first round. That's really what's on the line here. You've got Pittsburgh at 96, Columbus at 96. Regulation and overtime wins is the tiebreaker right now that is currently giving Pittsburgh the edge, even though they're tied in points. That will be the tiebreaker that decides it. So Columbus has to finish ahead of Pittsburgh in terms of points. If they end up tied after game 82, Pittsburgh would get that second spot ahead of Columbus because of the row category, regulation and overtime wins. That would be the decider. So it's a big game here. Columbus, I don't know if they played, they maybe a look ahead against Detroit because that was not a very clean, crisp, sharp performance from Columbus, not even close, but fell behind 4-1, had to rally from the death to come back and beat the Red Wings the other night, 5-4 in overtime. So maybe they were guilty of just maybe looking ahead to this game a little bit. Very well could have been the case. It's a huge game. It's Pittsburgh. They don't like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh giving them grief, giving them problems in the playoffs multiple times. And if they play them again, which is a very good possibility now, this could be I want to send a message night here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're at home. Pittsburgh's a little bit more vulnerable on the road. I kind of do have a lean here actually toward the Columbus side, believe it or not. Minus 125 to minus 130 in that range. I think you really want to see them show a message. This is not message sending time for Pittsburgh. You just go out there, treat it like another game. You've won 2 Stanley Cups. You go into this game and say, hey, if we win, great. If we're not, so be it. It's not the end of the world. We've been there, done that in the spring. For Columbus, this is more of a message sending game, I think. I think this game, I don't want to say it means more, but I think Columbus gets more out of it with a win than maybe Pittsburgh would, just in terms of psychologically, mentally, and is able to maybe say to Pittsburgh, hey, if we face you this year, it could be a different story. Because we know Columbus has been bounced from the playoffs multiple times by this Pittsburgh team in recent years. So I'm actually liking Columbus here. It's not a horrible price, minus 125. I've got that. And again, we've got this total 5.5. I'm on the fence with the total because it could be one of those games where, you get teams digging down defensively, but, you don't get Pittsburgh games 5.5 even money to go over the total very often. And that tells me that there might be some value looking over the total here in this game. And again, we saw Columbus, fall asleep defensively the other night against Detroit. Maybe they show it tonight. It was just one of those games Detroit didn't inspire them, didn't interest them all that much, so they weren't great defensively in front of Bobrovsky. Maybe that changes tonight, but Pittsburgh's got firepower, and it's going to test this Columbus team. And Columbus is going to get Josh Anderson back tonight. He's been out for a while. He's got a career-high 17 goals this season in 61 games. He's unfortunately going to be relegated to a bottom 6 forward role in the first few games since coming back because, their offense is rolling right now, Columbus. And John Tortorella doesn't even want to really tinker with his top 2 lines. So Josh Anderson's going to have to slip into a third line role probably. But still, it's another weapon. It's another offensive force and more depth to this Columbus team, which offensively, during this great run they've been on the last month, they've taken off. They've been a very good offensive team. And I've talked about Matt Murray. It's been not exactly a stalwart since returning from that concussion. He's got to find his A game. He's still searching for it, as far as I'm concerned. So, bottom line at the end of the day, over would be the way I'd go in this game if I were to play the total. Andrew McGinnis, this is his first game. Jackets taking on the Penguins. Great matchup. Home ice advantage on the line here. Well, at least it's going to go a long way to deciding it. Andrew, what do you like?
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that lean, Ian. I mean, I think the fact that we're seeing 5.5 right now has to kind of open everyone's eyes at least a little bit. And, I think that more and more last year and the year before that, we kind of started checking out these trends, guys. And, we would see in the playoffs and, in these big games leading up to the playoffs. And right now they're kind of battling it out for home ice in the playoffs. A lot of these teams, you used to see lower scoring games in really tight games. Teams would buckle down defensively, but even this Columbus team, I used to kind of describe them as more of a defensive, chippy team that wins those low-scoring games. But I think with these two teams clashing right now, we're getting the 5.5, and the way these two teams have been playing, I can't really see them just slowing down all of a sudden. And Bobrovsky and Murray, they've been known for being good goaltenders. Obviously, Bobrovsky obviously a lot more experience, but I really do think that both of them right now have been involved in some high-scoring games. And just like you've been saying, Ian, Murray has to get ready for the playoffs. He has to get locked in because all playoffs long, we can't have him getting 3, 4, maybe 5 goals let in a night. But Penguins are 5-1 in their last 6 Thursday games. But Columbus, a lot of stats for them in favor for tonight. They're 10-1 in their last 11 versus the Eastern Conference. 4-1 in their last 5 versus the Metropolitan. But I'm looking at the over tonight, like I mentioned. The 5.5 is just very appealing to me. I've been going on all year, and I've always spoke about the reason why I think that this Penguins team has won back-to-back Stanley Cups is their depth and is the fact that they have so many people, so many bodies that can contribute on a nightly basis that it really does keep you guessing, and it keeps the opposition honest. I mean, they cannot just keep one line out there. they can't just rely on defending one line, because just when one line goes off, there's another one out there ready to attack you. And I think that's important to think about when you're betting an over. Is really just is this a one line team, or is it a team that can have depth and everyone can perform? So looking at this team ultimately, like down the middle, top line right now is literally Gensel, Crosby, and Rust. And then last year, if you would have told me that before the playoffs, might not have believed you. But now second line, Hagelin, Malkin, Hornquist. I mean, when you've got a guy like Phil Kessel, I don't care what anyone says about Phil Kessel. You got a guy like Phil Kessel on your third line. That just goes to show how good your team is, honestly, because this is a guy that shows up and he'll make the plays when he has to. And to have him down there as your third line right winger, that to me that just shows the talent level on your team. And looking at the history between these two teams right now. In the past 3 games here, Pittsburgh has averaged 4.33 goals per game in the past 3 games these two teams have played. Columbus 2.67. But having said that, they've averaged 34 shots on goal. So personally, for me, a lot of the odds are favoring it. The over is 10-1 in the Penguins' last 11 road games. As we know, the road's been a little bit more sloppy for them than at home. And for the Columbus Blue Jackets, the over is 4-0 in the last 4 overall, but more importantly, 5-0 in their last 5 when their opponent scores 2 goals or less in the previous game. So they can't always have a defensive style game. And head to head, the over is 5-0 in the last 6 meetings between these two teams. So the old me and a couple of years ago or last year, I might have said these two teams are going to collide for a really low scoring game. But I think at this 5.5 number, you got these two teams battling at it. I don't think they will be digging deep defensively, Ian. To quote what you said, I really do think that this game's going to be just fully offense tonight, and let's ride early with that 5.5.
It's a changing of the guard in the NHL, and Dana mentioned it in one of the previous games we talked about. These desperation spots, these big games, everybody throws everything but the kitchen sink at the opposing net, and a lot of these games are going more over the total than under. I mean, that's just the way it's going in a lot of these instances. In the new era of the NHL, 20 years ago, if it was a big game, a game 6 or game 7, you'd get a little tighter play. You'd get a 2-1 game, 3-1 game more often. Now you're getting goalies or coaches that are pulling goalies down 2 goals with 4 minutes left, for crying out loud. In some instances. So again, you've got situations where I find, it's in these big games, you're going to see this in playoff time, especially elimination games come playoff time. You're going to be hard pressed at least I'm going to be hard pressed to make strong cases for unders in game 6s, game 7s. When we're talking about elimination situations, you will see I either bet overs or I pass on the total when we get to those game 6, game 7 situations, elimination for one or both teams on the line. Because you just worry that there's going to be that our season is done if we lose this game mindset. We've got to fire every puck at the net, rack that up, see if we can get a garbage goal that way. We will pull the goalie early if we have to, if we're down a goal or 2. So all of that contributes to me making it difficult to make a case for unders in those spots. And we talk about it here, Pittsburgh, Columbus, 2 teams that are Pittsburgh's great offensively. Even without Derek Brassard, they've been very, very good still. Wait till they get him back from injury. I mean, they'll be even deeper. You're right. Phil Kessel on a third line right now. That tells you it's an embarrassment of riches for this Pittsburgh team. I mean, that's your third line. Phil Kessel, Riley Sheahan, and Connor Sherry. I mean, that is absolutely that's a third line. That could be this first or second line on a lot of teams. Gensel, Crosby, Rust, top line, Hagelin, Malkin, Hornquist, second line. I mean, just so much depth right now on this Pittsburgh team. Hard team to bet under. Columbus offensively, hard team to bet under right now. Their offense has been great. They get Anderson back. So I like Columbus. I'll have a small play on the over. I'm more on Columbus in this game, minus 125. Andrew likes the over, 5.5 as well. Boston, Florida, 61-62. Big one. Big game here. Boston minus 125. Total 6 shaded to the under. Boston finally looked like they had one of their worst games in some time the other night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Give Tampa credit. Finally, against a big team, they showed up. Great performance. Really kept Boston at bay in that hockey game. And one of the Bruins' poorer performances in quite some time. But one thing about this Boston team, when they lose a game, they don't often lose 2 in a row. And again, this is a situation where I know bettors, especially the ones that cashed with Florida against Nashville in lucky fashion, I might add, because Nashville carried the play for a lot of that game. If you cashed in with Florida betting that must-win scenario, you're going to come right back to it here. But be careful. I mean, this is a good Boston team. They're where they are in the standings because they're a good hockey team. Florida's battling their asses off just to get in the playoffs where they are because of what they are, and that's a mediocre hockey team, an up and down team. So be careful with the must-win theory here on the Florida Panthers in this game. Should be an interesting one. You're going to have Rask and Luongo, good veteran battle in net here in this game. Florida trying to make amends for a terrible performance Saturday against Boston at the TD Garden. What did that game end? 5-1 Bruins. It was all Boston. Florida was awful in that hockey game. So Florida obviously trying to make amends for that, needing the 2 points. They have no room for error, no margin for error. They have to win this game and win out the rest of the way. And they'll play Boston one more time Sunday night in that makeup game. It was postponed due to a snowstorm earlier this season in Boston. Sunday night, it's a standalone game. The only game, the one remaining game of the regular season on that Sunday schedule. It'll be interesting to see from a Florida perspective if that game still means something to them by the time we get to that Sunday night puck drop between the Bruins and Panthers. For this game tonight, minus 125. I did not get involved in the side, although I, again, caution you, don't just bet Florida for the must-win theory. That doesn't always work. We've seen that multiple times this week. The total of 6, this is the one game I would actually make a case for the under in. Luongo was fantastic in the game against Nashville. Boston, I think, is going to starting to try and ratchet up their play defensively just a little bit. Against Tampa, they weren't great by any stretch of the imagination. Tampa got caught a few breaks, though. I mean, I've seen Boston play worse defensively than they did against Tampa Bay, even in the losing effort. So this is the game. This is the game of the card that, if I like an under in this entire board, this would be the one. Boston, Florida, I think, can stay under the total. Alex B. Smith, we're finally going to get him in here on this NHL Ice Guys show for this Thursday. This is his first game on the card. Bruins taking on the Panthers. Alex, what do you like here?
Yeah, this should be a really fun game to watch. And like you said, the must win doesn't mean we'll win. You talk about that with Florida. And this is a spot where I'm looking at Boston here. Boston has dominated Florida. They've won 8 of the last 10 meetings. They've also won 6 of the last 7 at Florida. So the road hasn't really changed a thing for them right now. When you look at the goaltending situation, Roberto Luongo just turned 40 years old yesterday. He's going to be playing his 1,000th career game, third all-time most games by a goalie in NHL history. He played in the back-to-back, both games of the back-to-back with Nashville last night, or night before last, I should say. That was the first time he played in 2 straight games in over 2 years. So now he's going to be playing the third game in 4 nights. You got an older goalie. It's going to be, I'm sure they're going to have a little ceremony for him at some point before the game to honor his 1,000th game. And he's going up against a team that has been his nemesis for quite some time. He has a 18, 20, and 3 record against Boston in his career. While you look at Tuukka Rask on the other side, 21, 3-1 with a 1.46 goals against, 951 save percentage, and 4 shutouts. He's absolutely dominated Florida his whole career. He said Boston, they got something to play for now. They're trying to win that division. They know how important home ice is in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs here. They're not going to waste any time. Like you look at Florida against Nashville. Nashville really didn't have too much to play for. They're still probably going to win the Central, going to win the Western Conference, have home ice throughout. So they kind of laid back a bit, and Florida, of course, got lucky too because the game should have gone to overtime. Goal that ended up being disallowed right at the buzzer. So I think we see Boston take care of business easy here. I'm laying the price even at $1.25.
All right, Bruins for Alex B. Smith. Boston taking on Florida. Andrew McGinnis, this is on his card as well. Boston and Florida. Andrew, what do you like? All right, Andrew, what do you like? Boston, Florida. Go ahead.
Yeah, in my eyes, really, when I look at this game, I really just think that it's kind of the opposite as what I was saying before, in the sense that Florida really is going to have to buckle down defensively and have to kind of sharpen things up defensively. And we're going to need to see a huge goaltending performance out of Luongo for us to see any kind of chance from Florida. I mean, Boston's still competing. I mean, they're still competing for that top spot, obviously, and Florida's kind of hanging on by that last thread, trying to do everything that they can. So, in that perspective and from that sense, that's what really makes me think that they're going to have to keep this under the total of 6. And, it's like Dana always says, and I've really kind of listened to what he said about this. I don't want us, be losing the whole game, on this. When you bet under 6, you're winning the entire game until it hits a 6 number. So for me, I really see this one staying under the total. I see there being a lot of, neutral ice time and just staying very, very slow pace kind of game. I don't think that Boston's going to be doing anything too exciting. They're going to be sticking to the fundamentals and just playing their game. Meanwhile, Florida is going to be playing a lot more desperate, a lot more defensive, sacrificing their bodies and kind of doing everything that they can. When I say that, I'm not saying that Boston won't be doing that either, but I think they're in a lot better of a position right now. And sometimes for a hockey team around this time of year, right before the playoffs, desperation mode is not always a good thing for this Florida Panthers team. But in my opinion, for them, it will have to be defensively. If there's something that they have to do, it's going to have to buckle down in their own end, in their own zone, and figure out how to get that puck out of their own end safely and securely. So having said that, for me, the under 6 looks like a strong play in my eyes. And head-to-head in the last 4 meetings in Florida, 4-0 to the under the total. So I think that these two teams combined, both known for high-scoring teams, when they clash right now, I think both these teams are going to come out with a low-scoring performance. Under is 3-0 in the Panthers' last 3-0-1 in their last 4 overall, 4-1-1 in the last 6 versus the Eastern Conference. And as far as Boston goes, nothing too crazy sticks out, but 4-1-1 in their last 6 games on Thursday. So overall, guys, these two goalies, I think they'll show up tonight. Rask, he's got to get ready for the playoffs. He'll be ready to go tonight, and under the 6 is the play for me.
Yeah, no argument. Under 6, Boston, Florida. And I mentioned in the chat, Florida, yeah, they do look like they're running out of gas. It's because they've pushed themselves so hard for weeks, if not months, to make up all the ground that they've made up to get themselves in a position where they're even sniffing around a playoff spot in the East. And when you just push yourself and drive yourself that hard for so long, eventually you're going to run out of gas physically and just hit a wall. And I think maybe Florida's starting to show signs of that these last few games. Even the Nashville game, they won that game, but they were dominated in terms of possession and shots and all that, and really had to hang on to win that game. Not a clear indication of them being the superior team that night. Yeah, they do look like they're running on fumes, and to me, they're going to end up falling just short of this playoff spot. Montreal, Detroit, 63-64. Detroit minus 135 to minus 140. Total 5.5 across the board. I'm keeping this brief. I'm on the over here, 5.5. This is one of my favorite angles late in the season. 2 non-playoff teams going at it. Nothing to play for. Roll the puck out, have some fun, score some goals, get up and down the ice. And we're certainly seeing Montreal and Detroit do that. As of late, Montreal has cashed an over in 4 of their last 5 games, 5-4 in overtime the other night against Winnipeg. So that they're going over the total. Detroit, they're on a little 4-1 over 5-1 over the total surge. Detroit, their last 6 games, they're coming off a 5-4 game against Columbus. Head to head, 3 straight overs. Detroit and Columbus all this season, 6-3, 10-1, 6-2, or 4-2 rather. In that most recent game, and you got just a total of 5.5. So I think you get there. Now, I know that the one injury that does concern me for Montreal is this Nikita Scherbak injury. He's actually played very well for them, rookie right winger for the Canadians. He's out with a concussion. He's really given them something offensively. But the way you look at it, when you've got a bunch of youngsters and AHL call-ups in the lineup, like Montreal has, you're going to start making mistakes here, and that could end up being the case. And, you got a Kirby Reichel up now, a Logan Shaw. You just got a bunch of these new call-ups coming in. That leads to defensive miscues. But at the same time, these guys want to impress the coach here, in this case, Claude Julien. So you try to be a little more aggressive with the puck, try to make some plays offensively, be more creative. You want to say, hey, coach, look at me. Look at what I can do. Look how I can help this team. And you'd try to be more aggressive offensively, but it can sometimes lead to more miscues defensively. So I like the situation when you got these youngsters and these AHL players called up to the NHL playing. I think it leads to more mistakes defensively, more goals offensively. So I'll be on over 5.5 there. Montreal, Detroit worked out for me last night. I really like that Ottawa Buffalo game over the total. Same situation, 2 non-playoff teams going nowhere. Just roll it out. Give up a lot of shots. Both teams did. You're probably going to see something similar here tonight, Detroit, Montreal. So I'm on the over 5.5 in that hockey game tonight. Next up, we've got Calgary taking on Winnipeg, 65-66. Winnipeg minus 220, total 6. Look, I don't love the anti-Calgary bet tonight as much as I've loved it in other nights, but I'm still going to go ahead and go Winnipeg here, puck line for a little bit. It's not best bet. And again, I've liked fading Calgary in spots more than I like this spot. But it's still worth a bet to me. You can get Winnipeg minus a goal and a half at plus 125. which I think is still something that's worth looking at here in this game. The one concern for Winnipeg is there's nothing to be achieved in these last few regular season games from a standings perspective. They're locked into where they are. But I've seen chatter from Winnipeg say they didn't really love the defensive effort from their team the last couple of games against Montreal and Ottawa. Won those games, but boy, didn't exactly shine through defensively. Play that Winnipeg Jets improved defense that we've seen from them so much this season. I think back home they're going to really want to send a message, play better defensively, and it's not going to take much defensively to shut down Calgary right now. I mean, this is an offensively challenged, inept hockey team in terms of putting the puck in the net right now. Talked about it ad nauseum with all the injuries. I'm not even going to go through all the injuries again. I've said them multiple times when we've talked Calgary. You know who's out. You know how big of an impact it is that they're all out for this hockey team. So it's a situation here where Calgary can't wait for the season to end. Another dismal, brutal performance on home ice the other night against Arizona, 4-1 loss to the Coyotes. Again, Calgary, disappointing season ending. You got guys with their minds on the golf course. Johnny Gaudreau with his mind on, his dad's situation, which just recently happened. Although it's past, I'm still sure he's still concerned about the guy. And it's a situation where Calgary's just mentally, I think, checked out a little bit. So yeah, I'll take Winnipeg puck line. I don't love them as much as I liked Arizona, for instance, the other night. Still think it's worth a bet though to go against Calgary one more time. Andrew McGinnis, Winnipeg, Calgary. It's on your card as well. What do you like here?
Yeah, I'll keep this nice and short as well, Ian. I certainly agree with you saying that Winnipeg realistically has nothing really to play for in this game. Had nothing really to compare to this game, compare themselves to Calgary whatsoever, and try and think to themselves, what kind of way am I going to get motivated? How am I going to get excited for this game? How am I going to better myself in this game? And for me, I think, like you mentioned a little bit, it's defensively. And I think at home, it's a good opportunity to do that. You're playing a very, very crappy team that has so many injuries. We've talked about this Calgary team numerous times on this show. I think all of us have touched on it. And I think, in a sense, they're not going to go and try and light them up. Essentially, they're going to try and prove themselves that they can be that defensive team. And, we already know that there's not really too many weapons whatsoever over there in that Calgary side. So it's already not anything to really be worried about too much. But it's going to be an important time for this Winnipeg team heading into the playoffs right now, just to kind of prove that they can lock things down on their own end. So for me, I look at this 6 total. I'm looking under the 6. I'm also looking at Winnipeg in regulation. Still a pretty heavy price, but Winnipeg in regulation and this under the 6. I just think that there's just not enough talent over there in Calgary. There's not enough talent on the side of Calgary really to do too much against this deep Winnipeg team. And again, there's 3 lines of absolute skill on this Winnipeg team. The only thing that will stop them from succeeding this playoffs time, and I absolutely looking forward to our playoff preview show here on SBR YouTube channel with the Ice Guys. I cannot wait to break every series down. But the only thing that will stop this Winnipeg team from being successful is being careless in their own end, and their all-star players like Laine, even like Ehlers, like Scheifele, not back-checking. And, I know this is Calgary, guys, but I think they're going to have to prove that tonight. They can play defensively. They're absolutely going to shut down Calgary. And Winnipeg in regulation and the under 6 are my 2 plays.
Yeah, and Winnipeg did rest some key players in those 2 games against Ottawa and Montreal. We have to keep that in mind as well. Maybe that impacted how poorly they played in their own zone at times. But you don't want bad habits to creep into your game at this stage of the season when you're this close to the playoffs. So I think if you're Winnipeg, this is let's get our ducks in a row here. Let's get this defensive play sorted out and back to the way it was for most of the season. I think you'll see that. And again, Calgary's offense is not exactly you're not exactly shutting down the 86 Oilers here when you're playing this Calgary Flames team right now at this point in time. So it's a situation right now where Winnipeg, there's a good team to fix your defensive game against right now. Calgary, Winnipeg, Alex B. Smith also on his card. Alex, what do you like here?
Yeah, I pretty much said in the chat, Calgary has allowed 3 or more goals in 9 of their last 11. Winnipeg has scored 3 or more in 8 of their last 10. I'm going to be looking at the Jets team total over. Like I said, Winnipeg, they don't have anything to work on as far as standings go, but they want to sharpen, like I said, sharpen the skates, sharpen the sword for the playoffs. And the Calgary team that's looking forward to the golf course. So I think we at least see 3 or 4 goals, if not more, from Winnipeg tonight. So I'll be on that team total over.
Yeah, that's probably a safe one to go with because 6 is dicey for this game total. It makes perfect sense to see a 6 involving Winnipeg. It's very tough to get there in a Calgary game right now with 6. That's the issue with the way their offense is. So it's a very dicey full game total. So yeah, if you like Winnipeg to score but don't trust Calgary, that could be the way to think. Go with the team total instead. Vegas Edmonton 67-68. Vegas minus 150, total 6 across the board. Nothing really here for me. I mean, uh, I tried going against Vegas the other night because I thought, their first game off the Pacific Division clinch against San Jose, Vancouver fired up for these last couple of home games as they bid adieu to the Sedin twins as they retire at the end of the season. You get a little something in terms of extra oomph and effort, and just, yeah, let's win this for our two twins here. For Vancouver these last couple of games. Vancouver didn't really wake up till the third period. I thought they were awful. Vancouver dominated in the first two periods, fell down 4-1, sprung to life in the third period. It's almost like Travis Green said, hey, these are legendary Canucks that are sitting here in our dressing room here. You're going to play like that for their final couple games here? And they sprung to life in the third period, 3 unanswered to tie the game, but they fell in a shootout 5-4 to Vegas the other night. Give Vegas credit. Gerard Gallant, amazing job, continues, keeps his team focused. They were ready to play that hockey game against Vancouver off the clinch of the Pacific Division. Very impressive stuff. They rested a couple guys. I believe Perron, Marchessault did not play in that game. They put in Brandon Peary instead, and look what Brandon Peary does. He scores a couple of goals for the Vegas Golden Knights in that game. It tells you everything that team touches is turning to gold this season. I'm telling you, with that Vegas Golden Knight, no pun intended, obviously, Golden Knights. So nothing for me, though, on this game. Vegas, minus 150, total 6. I don't trust Edmonton. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag from them. They had a nice little run where the effort was really high, but they're starting to lose some games again. Vegas showed me a good enough effort the other night against Vancouver in a very vulnerable spot, what I thought they were in a vulnerable spot. And they still seem like they want to win some games here down the stretch, Vegas, even though they've got everything wrapped up. So I won't be involved in the side in this game. Total wise, could go either way as well. So not involved with the Golden Knights and Oilers game. Doesn't look like anybody else is either. So we'll move on to Arizona, Vancouver, 69-70. Vancouver minus 110, total 5.5, shaded to the under. Dana, by the way, his 3 games were early in the card. He decided, I'm checking out early today. I'm going to knock out all my games first 15 minutes and then have a nice little 40-minute intermission and come back for best bets. But no, he's tuning in. He is just absolutely hanging on every word that we say. Since his part of the show ended earlier on. So he's sticking around and listening to us Babylon here. Arizona, Vancouver. I'm going to go with Vancouver one more time. It didn't work out the other night. Arizona is playing really good. That's the one concern. I mean, we talk about it. It's not an easy case to go against Arizona, but this is it. This is the last home game for Daniel and Henrik Sedin in Vancouver. It's a night where you can't get tickets anywhere for this game. They got gobbled up. It's a sellout, standing room only. Apparently, from what I've heard from people in Vancouver, and I know a few, especially after going to Vancouver a couple months ago, StubHub, you can't even get tickets for this game. Very, very difficult. So this is a hot ticket in Van City for this final home game for Daniel and Henrik Sedin of their great Canuck careers. So it's going to be a great atmosphere, loud building. They'll be excited, a lot of energy in the team. I think you'll see it. I think you'll see more of that third period performance against Vegas for the full 60 minutes tonight. Again, I hate going against Arizona, and they've been so good to me. I've cashed so many times with Arizona. Big dog against Vegas. Nice win against Calgary the other night. It's like I'm turning my back on my best friend or my girlfriend or something. Doing this, like the Arizona, stabbing them in the back like this, cheating on them, so to speak. But it's the way it goes sometimes here. I got to go with it. Vancouver in the swan song for Daniel and Henrik Sedin on home ice. Alex B. Smith, Arizona, Vancouver. I think he agrees with me. But Alex, what do you like here?
Yeah, I do agree with you, and in all sentiments. I mean, really, like I said, Arizona's been, absolutely stellar as of late. And you look at Antti Ranta, he could probably win goalie of the month for March and April. I mean, the way that he's played down the stretch, 9 of the last 10 games he's won, and 6 straight wins. Now he's been absolutely terrific for a team that could have just completely folded like Calgary. Both these teams, I mean, the two of the worst teams in the Western Conference, but they've been playing with a lot of passion, a lot of fire. But Vancouver, like I said, completely packed crowd. You got 2 Canuck legends playing their final game at home. 17 seasons, 2,107 combined points between these two guys. I mean, some incredible numbers and incredible moments that they've had in British Columbia over the years. So, the crowd's going to give them a great farewell. And I'm sure this young team, you look at how young these guys are. These guys probably grew up watching the Sedins playing. So to even be alongside them for their, final days, their final seasons, that's going to bring some fire in the team that's won 5 of the last 7, had their 4-game win streak snapped, like you said, in that game where they didn't show up the first 40 minutes, woke up in the third period, and then, of course, lost in the shootout. So I think we see a full effort tonight, and I think we're going to see a big effort, and the crowd is going to give them a lot of energy. Vancouver at a pick and price, that's the way I'm looking at tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's not easy to go against Arizona. I said it in the chat just now. Vancouver's going to play this, I think, like a game 7. I think you're going to see players go that extra mile to block a shot, maybe that they wouldn't the other night or 2 weeks ago. I think it's just that these two guys, Daniel and Henrik Sedin. You could talk about they haven't won a cup, and that's the only upsetting, disappointing part. If you're a Canuck fan, they just were not able to win that cup. They came so close. The cup final, the Boston losing in Game 7, 2011. Many playoff appearances with the Sedins as well, but these are 2 legendary figures in Canuck history. You want to go out with a bang for these 2 guys, and I think the team wants to do that. So, yeah, both Alex and I like in Vancouver, even though it's not an easy case to bet against Arizona right now at this point in time. Minnesota, LA, 71-72, no line here, side or total. Really no opinion personally for me on this game, so I'm going to ship it right over to Alex B. Smith because this is another one on his card, likely Wild and Kings. I guess I'd lean LA if I had to. It's a tough spot. Minnesota back-to-back on the road. They lost in Anaheim last night, but I'm going to probably stay far away from this one. Alex, when the lines come out here, what interests you in this Wild Kings game?
I'm probably going to be looking at playing this game under. I'm guessing we're going to see 5.5, maybe shade it to the under. You got Alex Stalock in net for the Wild tonight after Dubnyk playing. So, give Stalock a little bit of work in case he does have to come in the first round. The Wild already have their spot clinched. They're going to be starting on the road against Winnipeg. But they're going to be without Ryan Suter, who had a horrific ankle injury. I was reading a couple of things that said if he was playing baseball or soccer or basketball, his career might be over. It's basically had like a displaced ankle. The irony of that being that kind of like Minnesota Vikings Teddy Bridgewater having a displaced leg fracture. It's almost the same kind of injury that they basically compared it to. So no Ryan Suter for the playoffs. Kind of reminds you of last year when they had no Zach Parise going into the playoffs. So Wild team more than likely, and we'll be talking about it on Wednesday for the playoff preview, but I'm probably going to be fading them once they get to playoff time like usual. Bless you, Dana. And so, yeah,
I'm looking for the
looking at the
button.
under.
I have no mute button. Where?
But I'll be looking at the under 5.5 for Kings and Wild when it comes out.
Yeah, he can't hold in a sneeze. It's impossible. You're right.
I know.
So if there's no mute button, you hear about it. You got a problem with that? Yeah, under for Alex B. Smith, Minnesota, LA. We got to hurry up here. Colorado, San Jose, last game 73-74. San Jose minus 185, total 5.5. Pretty much even money across the board. I sound like that auctioneer guy from Letterkenny season 2. And everyone is old. I sound like that guy here. I'm talking so fast. But Jim Dickskin. Or Dickens, they kept calling him Dickskin. I mean, that show's just hilarious. I could go on for days about it. But Colorado, this is my live dog of the night here, plus 160 here. Colorado Avalanche. San Jose can lose at home to the Dallas Flippin' Stars like they did the other night. They can lose to Colorado. I know must win doesn't equal will win, but this is not must win laying minus 185 like Philly. This is not must win like laying minus 240 with St. Louis last night. This is taken plus 160. I'm willing to take plus 160. Colorado needs the points. San Jose lost at home to Dallas the other night. They can't move up, can't move down. It's a situation where I don't know. San Jose got to worry about where they were, losing that game at home. So Colorado needs it like blood. Doesn't mean they'll win, but I'm happy to take plus 160 here in this spot with Colorado against a team that just proved to me the other night at home they can lose to anybody, losing to that Dallas Stars team. So give me Colorado here plus 160. All right, best bets to wrap up the show. Dana Lane, best bet. What do you got?
There's no way I'm going under in another Islanders game. Islanders and Philly, I'm sorry, the Islanders and the Rangers go way over the total 6.5. There might be 8-9 goals scored in this game.
Yeah, it was 5-4 the other night with the Islanders. So, yeah, seeing a 9 spot would not shock me. Rangers, Islanders over for Dana. Alex B. Smith, best bet.
Boston Bruins have been absolutely dominant against Florida. Tuukka Rask, 21-3-1 in his career against them. I've won 8 of the last 10, 6 of the last 7 in Florida. Laying minus $1.25. I'm going to Boston Bruins tonight on the road.
All right, Boston for Alex B. Smith, laying the road favorite price. Andrew McGinnis, what do you got? Best bet.
Yeah, going back to Pittsburgh, Columbus, Ian, over is 10-1 in Penguins' last 11 road games. As far as the Jackets go, over is 4-0 in the last 4 overall. They're rolling right now. They're scoring, but they're also getting scored on. So 4-0 in the last 4 meetings for Pittsburgh, Columbus, and for me, it seems like an easy play here at 5.5. I say we'll see about 7 or 8 goals in this game, so it should be a high-scoring one in my opinion, guys. That's my best bet in the night.
All right, best bet there, Pittsburgh Columbus for Andrew McGinnis. I'm going to go with Vancouver, minus 110 one more time. Let's do it. See if we can get a win for Daniel and Henrik on their way out. Vancouver, minus 110, best bet for me for this Thursday card. And that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We've got one show left in the regular season that's going to come your way Saturday, 9 a.m., our regular season finale edition of the NHL Ice Guys. Hope to see you then. For Dana, Alex, and Andrew, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Thursday NHL card. We'll see you again on Saturday.